Every night, the maid gave herself to the lonely millionaire. Until one day, hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main characters. Rain tapped gently against the tall windows of the penthouse overlooking downtown Chicago. The city lights shimmered through the curtain of water, blurring into streaks of gold and blue. Inside, the air was quiet except for the soft hum of jazz from a distant speaker and the faint clink of ice in a glass of whiskey. Ryan Carter sat alone on the leather couch, his shirt half unbuttoned, his tie tossed aside. The glow from a floor lamp framed the sharp lines of his face, handsome, but tired, like a man carrying too many unspoken memories. He stared at the glass in his hand as if the amber liquid could drown the noise in his head. He had built his empire from the ground up. Real estate, tech, stocks, whatever he touched, turned into gold. Yet when the sun went down, his penthouse echoed with silence. Every night he poured himself another drink, waiting for sleep that never came. The truth was simple. Money could buy everything but peace. Then came the sound of soft footsteps on marble. Anna Blake stood by the doorway, wearing her Navy maid uniform, her hair tied neatly in a bun. In her hands was a folded towel still warm from the dryer. She hesitated before speaking. "Mr. Carter, should I prepare your coffee before I leave?" Ryan looked up slowly. His voice was low, a little rough. "No, stay." Anna blinked, unsure she had heard him right. She had worked for him for 3 months, cleaning rooms, polishing glass, and avoiding his eyes. He never asked her to stay. "Sir?" She whispered. He set his drink down and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I just need someone to talk to. You do not have to say anything. Just stay for a moment." The rain drummed harder against the glass. She hesitated, then stepped closer, the faint scent of soap and detergent following her. The distance between them was filled with quiet tension, the kind that came from two lonely souls who did not mean to find each other. Minutes passed. Neither spoke. Ryan's gaze softened as he watched her hands fidget with the towel. Something about her calmness made the air easier to breathe. "You do not have to look so nervous," he said finally, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. "I will not bite." Anna's cheeks flushed slightly. "You just seem different tonight." "Shum." Ryan looked away, his expression unreadable. "Maybe I am tired of silence." For a moment, it felt like the world outside had stopped. The storm, the noise, the loneliness, it all faded into the rhythm of two heartbeats trying to remember what connection felt like. That night, Anna stayed a little longer than usual. She made tea instead of coffee, folded the towel again just to have something to do, and listened as Ryan spoke softly about the city lights, about nights that never ended, about the sound of rain that kept him awake. Neither of them knew it yet, but that was the night everything began to change. The next morning the rain had stopped, leaving the windows of the penthouse streaked with pale light. The city outside had awakened, but inside, everything felt strangely still. Anna arrived earlier than usual. She could still smell the faint trace of last night's whiskey and rain. Ryan was already at the dining table, reading the newspaper that he did not seem to care about. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said softly, placing a tray of breakfast on the table. He looked up briefly. She nodded, unsure how to act after what had happened the night before. Nothing inappropriate had occurred, yet the air between them had shifted. He had spoken to her as if she were someone he trusted, someone more than an employee. And for the first time, she had seen loneliness behind the sharp perfection of his face. When she finished her chores, Ryan called her name again. "Anna, sit down for a moment." She hesitated but obeyed, smoothing her uniform before sitting across from him. "I have a question," he began. "You work 2 jobs, correct?" "Yes, sir," she said. "Here and at the downtown cafe in the evenings." He folded the newspaper and leaned back. "Why push yourself that hard?" Anna lowered her eyes. "My mother's medical bills. She is in a care home in Springfield. The insurance does not cover everything. I send what I can." Ryan's jaw tightened, and for a second he looked away, as if the mention of family stirred something he did not want to feel. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly. "Someone who believed kindness could fix anything." Anna looked at him, unsure if she should answer. "Was it your wife?" The silence that followed said everything. He finally nodded, eyes unfocused. She died 2 years ago. Car accident. I was driving. The words came out flat, stripped of emotion, but Anna could feel the weight behind them. She wanted to say something comforting, but there were no words that could reach that kind of pain. Ryan exhaled slowly, setting his coffee cup down. I'm telling you this because I need to ask something unusual. He paused. I cannot sleep. Not since that night. I tried medication, therapy, everything. None of it helps. But last night, when you were here, I slept for the first time in months. Anna blinked, caught between surprise and confusion. I do not understand. He stood, walked to his office desk, and returned with a folder in hand. Inside was a printed document, several pages long, stamped with his company's letterhead. I want to offer you an arrangement, he said. A contract. You will remain here as my private live-in assistant. I will handle your mother's bills, provide full pay, and ensure your security. In return, you will stay in the apartment and maintain the nightly routine. No more double shifts, no financial struggle, just peace for both of us. Anna stared at him. A contract for me to stay every night? Ryan's tone remained even, professional. There will be boundaries, nothing improper. You will not be my maid, you will be my quiet. The last sentence lingered in the air like a confession. She opened the folder. It was real-typed clauses, dates, signatures required at the bottom. She could barely process it. I cannot sign something like this right now, she whispered. It feels wrong. I understand, he said, his gaze steady. Take your time. Think about it. I only ask that you consider what it could mean for both of us. Lies. Anna left the room with the folder pressed against her chest, her heart pounding. She had come here to clean floors, not to become part of a lonely man's fragile world. That night, she sat by her small apartment window, staring at the rain returning to the streets below. Her phone buzzed with a text from the care home. Your mother's medication has been delayed due to unpaid invoices. Tears blurred her vision. She reached for the folder again, her fingers trembling as she flipped through the pages. The final clause read, Do not fall in love. She closed the folder slowly, her reflection in the glass staring back at her. Anna whispered to herself, What if I already have? Days later, the contract still sat on Anna's small kitchen table, untouched except for the faint coffee ring left by her trembling hand. She had read every clause at least 10 times. The offer sounded unreal: full payment for her mother's care, freedom from endless double shifts, and a quiet home where she could finally breathe. Yet each time she reached for the pen, her conscience froze. On Friday evening, she returned to the penthouse to deliver Ryan's reports and collect her week's pay. The elevator doors opened to the familiar hush of the top floor. Through the wide windows, the Chicago skyline glowed in silver and gold. Ryan stood near the balcony, sleeves rolled up, talking on his phone in that low, controlled tone that always carried authority. When he noticed her, he ended the call and turned. You came. I had to drop off the papers, she said, her voice steady though her pulse raced. He studied her for a moment. Did you read it? I did. And? Anna took a breath. I do not understand why you chose me, Mr. Carter. You could hire anyone, a nurse, a therapist, a professional caretaker. Why me? Ryan's expression softened slightly. Because you do not pretend. Everyone around me wants something. You only want to survive. That is honest enough. The words struck her deeply. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Ryan stepped closer and placed the folder on the table. You can sign it or walk away. Either choice. I will respect it. But if you stay, I will keep my promise. He handed her a pen and waited. The rain began again outside, faint and steady. Anna stared at the document, the black letters swimming before her eyes. Her mother's face flashed in her mind, weak, smiling, waiting for a call that never came. She signed. When she handed the folder back, Ryan nodded once, almost solemnly. From this night on, this is your home. Claire, my assistant, will move your things tomorrow. You will use the guest room across the hall from mine. Do you have any questions? Anna shook her head. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Only one. What happens if I fail to keep the rules? Ryan's eyes held hers. Then you leave. No harm, no judgment. But if you stay, remember what you signed. That night marked the beginning of their strange arrangement. Anna moved quietly through the penthouse, adjusting to the rhythm of a life she had never imagined. Her duties were light preparing tea, keeping order, and being there when he returned late from work. Yet every evening followed the same pattern. The sound of his key turning in the door, the click of his shoes across the marble, and his quiet voice saying, "Stay." She learned the small details of his world. He preferred his coffee without sugar, his whiskey with 2 cubes of ice, and the lights dimmed just enough to hide the city's chaos. He never spoke about his wife again, but sometimes she caught him standing by the window, watching the storm clouds as if searching for her ghost. One night, Anna found him asleep in the armchair, still dressed from work, his phone blinking with unanswered messages. The sight of him like that, unguarded, exhausted, pulled at something inside her. She covered him with a blanket, her fingers brushing his sleeve. For the first time, he did not wake. In the following days, an odd peace filled the apartment. Ryan's temper softened. His tone when speaking to her grew warmer, almost kind. He even smiled once, brief but real, when she accidentally burned his toast and tried to hide it behind another plate. "Honesty," he said, amused. "That is what I pay you for." She laughed quietly, a sound he had not heard in years. Yet beneath the calm, Anna could feel the weight of the contract pressing on her heart. The line she had signed, "Do not fall in love," echoed like a whisper every time he said her name. Late one night, as she poured him tea, Ryan reached for the cup and accidentally touched her hand. The warmth lingered longer than it should have. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting second, the rules they had written felt impossibly fragile. Neither spoke. The clock ticked softly in the background, measuring the silence between them. Anna turned away first, her heart trembling. She knew then that the most dangerous part of the deal was not in the fine print, it was already happening inside her. Weeks passed, and what began as a quiet contract slowly became a rhythm neither of them wanted to break. Anna's days were filled with soft routines, arranging Ryan's papers, watering the plants on the balcony, keeping his world in order. Each evening she waited for the sound of his key at the door, followed by his calm voice saying, "Stay." Janusz. Ryan had stopped looking like a man haunted by ghosts. He began eating breakfast at the table instead of alone by the window. Sometimes he even joined Anna in the kitchen, asking about her day as she brewed coffee. He spoke less about business and more about small things, the music she liked, the painting in the hallway, the rain that kept returning every Friday night. Still, the rules hung between them like invisible glass. She reminded herself every morning, "Do not cross the line, do not fall in love." But the line had already blurred. One afternoon, Ryan called her into his office. The tone in his voice was formal again, and it made her heart sink. He handed her a folder with an embossed invitation. "There is a charity gala next week," he said. "I need you to attend with me." Anna frowned. "A gala? That is not in the contract." "It is now," Ryan said lightly, though his eyes were serious. "I need someone I trust. People can be cruel in those rooms. You have seen that." "Ah." She wanted to refuse, but his expression told her this meant more than business. "If that is what you need, I will go." Over the next few days, Claire, Ryan's assistant, helped her prepare. A stylist was hired. A tailor delivered a deep navy gown that shimmered under light. When Anna looked at her reflection, she barely recognized herself. She looked like she belonged to his world, and that terrified her. The night of the gala, they arrived at the ballroom of the Grand Hyatt. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, laughter echoed through the air heavy with perfume and money. Ryan placed a steady hand on her back as they entered. "You will be fine," he whispered. "Just stay close." For the first hour, everything went smoothly. He introduced her simply as "my guest." She smiled politely, kept her posture straight, and tried not to let her nerves show. Then, near the buffet table, a woman in a diamond gown leaned in and whispered too loudly for kindness. "Is that not the maid from his building? I heard he keeps her around for company." Anna froze. The laughter that followed was soft but sharp as glass. She wanted to disappear, but Ryan's voice cut through the noise. "That woman you were talking about," he said calmly, "is the reason I am still standing today. If you cannot show respect, then you do not deserve my attention." The table fell silent. The woman's smile vanished. Ryan turned to Anna, offering his arm. "Let us go." They stepped out into the cool night air, leaving the glitter behind. For a while they stood under the canopy of the hotel, neither speaking. Finally, Anna said quietly, "You did not have to defend me." "Yes, I did," he replied. "You are not invisible, Anna. Not to me." She looked up at him, her throat tight. The streetlights reflected in his eyes, warm and unguarded. On the drive home, neither of them spoke, but the silence was no longer heavy. It felt alive, charged with something unspoken. When they reached the penthouse, Ryan paused before opening his door. "Thank you for tonight," he said softly. "You were extraordinary." Anna smiled faintly. "I was terrified." He let out a quiet laugh, the kind that sounded like it had been locked away for too long. "So was I." That night, when she returned to her room, she could still feel the warmth of his hand on her back and the weight of his words in her heart. The contract had rules, but her heart no longer followed them. She looked at the folded gown draped over the chair and whispered to herself, "Maybe love does not ask for permission." The week after the gala, the city seemed softer, as if the storm that had followed Ryan for years had finally begun to fade. For the first time, laughter drifted through the penthouse. Ryan worked from home more often, and Anna's presence no longer felt like an obligation written into a contract. It felt natural, like she belonged there. One morning she found him in the kitchen, struggling to make breakfast. Flour dusted the counter, and half-burned toast filled the air with smoke. She tried not to laugh. "You are going to ruin that pan, Mr. Carter." He turned, smiling. "Then I guess you will have to fire me." "Never," she said, taking the spatula from his hand. Their fingers brushed for a moment, and the silence that followed was filled with the sound of her heartbeat. Later that afternoon, a delivery arrived, an elegant envelope with gold lettering. Ryan opened it, his expression unreadable. "Board meeting," he said quietly. "Tomorrow evening. The press will be there. They want me to bring someone." "Someone," Anna repeated, unsure. He looked at her, his gaze steady. "You." She froze. "Ryan, that is a business event. I do not belong there." "Les's." "Yes, you do," he said firmly. "You belong wherever I am." His words echoed in her chest long after he left the room. The next evening, she accompanied him to the Carter Group headquarters, where the board meeting was being held on the top floor. The space was sleek and intimidating: glass walls, chrome fixtures, and people in expensive suits. Anna walked beside him, her heart pounding. Every pair of eyes followed her. When the meeting began, Ryan introduced her with quiet confidence. "This is Anna Blake. She manages my private residence and daily schedule. Without her, I would not have the clarity to lead this company." Some board members nodded politely, but others exchanged skeptical glances. One of them, an older executive named Victor Hale, smirked. "Your maid manages your clarity, Ryan? That is quite a story for the shareholders." Ryan's expression remained calm. "Clarity comes from trust. Something money cannot buy." Victor's tone sharpened. "Is that trust written into another one of your contracts?" The words cut through the room. Anna felt the blood drain from her face. Ryan's jaw clenched, but he stayed silent, refusing to rise to the insult. She wanted to defend him, but her voice caught in her throat. After the meeting, Ryan walked her to the car in silence. When they reached the elevator, she finally spoke. "They are wrong about you." He gave a faint smile. "It does not matter what they think. I have spent my whole life proving myself to people who never cared. I am tired of fighting ghosts." Anna hesitated. "Then why bring me there?" "Because I wanted them to see something real," he said quietly. "Something they could never buy." The elevator doors opened, and the dim light reflected off the glass. For a moment, Ryan looked at her as if he was trying to memorize her face. That night, back in the penthouse, Anna brought him his usual tea. He was sitting by the window again, but this time there was no drink in his hand, only a tired but genuine peace in his eyes. "Do you ever wish you could start over?" she asked softly. Ryan turned to her. "Every day, until you walked in. Now I just wish time would slow down." Their eyes met, and the air shifted. The distance between them dissolved like mist. He reached out and took her hand, his thumb tracing the edge of her palm. "Anna, I know what the contract says," he whispered, "but I cannot pretend anymore." She could barely breathe. "Neither can I." The city lights outside blurred as rain began to fall once more, but inside, the quiet between them was warm, fragile, and real. That night, for the first time, neither of them mentioned the rules. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains, brushing across the penthouse in soft gold. The air felt different, lighter, fragile, filled with the quiet that follows a confession neither of them could take back. Ryan was already awake, standing by the window with a cup of coffee in his hand, staring at the skyline. Anna walked in, still unsure how to act after the night before. The silence between them was no longer distant. It was intimate, almost comforting. She set the breakfast tray down and tried to sound casual. "Your meeting today is at 10, Claire confirmed the driver. Ryan nodded but did not turn. "Thank you." His voice was low, thoughtful. After a moment, he said, "Anna, about last night." She interrupted softly. "You do not need to explain. I understand." But she did not. Neither of them did. The contract that had once protected them now hung like a fragile thread between two hearts that had already crossed it. That evening, Ryan asked her to join him for a walk on the rooftop terrace. The air was cool, carrying the scent of rain from the night before. He handed her a mug of hot chocolate, a rare warmth replacing his usual whiskey. "When my wife was alive," he said quietly, "we used to come up here every Sunday night. She said it made the world look smaller, like problems could not reach us from down there." Anna listened, the wind tugging gently at her hair. "You loved her very much." "I did," he said. "But after the accident, I stopped living. The company became my punishment. The silence became my comfort. Until you." "Lo." She looked at him, unsure what to say. He continued, his voice steady but raw. "You made this place feel alive again. You made me remember what peace felt like. I do not know what that means for us, but I know it is real." Anna's heart ached. "What about the rules?" Ryan gave a faint smile. "Rules are made to protect what we fear losing. I am not afraid anymore." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed on the table beside them. The screen flashed with the name Victor Hale. Ryan sighed and answered. The conversation was brief but tense. When he hung up, his jaw tightened. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "The board wants an emergency session tomorrow," he said. "Someone leaked information about our private contract. They are threatening to investigate me for misconduct." Anna felt her stomach twist. "You think Victor did it?" "I would bet my company on it," Ryan replied bitterly. "He has been waiting for a reason to destroy me." Jumsula. That night, the calm between them shattered. Ryan spent hours in his study making calls while Anna sat alone in her room, staring at the folder she had once signed. Every page now felt like a weapon waiting to be used against them. When she finally gathered the courage to step into his office, he looked exhausted but resolute. "Anna," he said softly, "I can handle whatever they throw at me, but I do not want you caught in the fire." She shook her head. "You are not facing this alone." "All goo." Ryan stood and walked to her, his voice low but firm. "You have already done enough. If they call you, tell them nothing. I will take the blame." Tears filled her eyes. "That is not fair." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Neither was losing you before I even had the chance to tell you how I really feel." For a long moment neither spoke. The city hummed below, unaware of the storm building above it. That night, as Anna lay awake listening to the faint sound of rain, she realized something with painful clarity. The contract that once saved them might now destroy everything they had found in each other. The following day arrived heavy with tension. The sky hung low over downtown Chicago, gray and cold, matching the air inside the Carter Group headquarters. Ryan stood in front of the mirrored elevator, his reflection calm but his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Anna had begged him not to face the board alone, but he insisted. "This is my battle," he told her. "You have already done enough." Yet she could not stay away. Hours later, she found herself pacing near the lobby, watching the elevator numbers move, each floor dragging time slower. When the doors finally opened, Ryan stepped out flanked by reporters flashing cameras in his face. Voices overlapped questions about misconduct, inappropriate relationships, and breach of ethics. "Mr. Carter, did you pay your maid to live with you? Is it true she signed a personal contract? Did this arrangement affect company funds?" Security pushed the crowd back, but not before Anna saw the fury in Victor Hale's smirk behind them. By that evening, the story had spread everywhere on screens, online, in headlines that twisted every truth into scandal. The lonely millionaire and his maid, the contract affair. Ryan's lawyers advised silence. The board suspended him pending investigation. Everything he had built was crumbling piece by piece. When he finally returned to the penthouse that night, his tie was gone, his sleeves rolled up, his face drawn tight. Anna rushed to meet him, but he raised a hand gently. "Do not," he said. "You should not see this side of me." "I already have," she said softly. "And I am not leaving." He let out a bitter laugh. "You should. They will come for you next. They will say you trapped me, that you manipulated me. You deserve better than to drown with me." Anna stepped closer. "I do not care what they say. I care about what is true." Ryan's eyes met hers, heavy with a kind of pain words could not hold. "Then, hear the truth," he said quietly. The contract, it was never about needing someone to stay. It was about being too afraid to ask for something real. Her heart ached. You are not afraid anymore. He exhaled slowly, the fight leaving him. No, but I am about to lose everything, Anna. And when that happens, I need to know you will be safe. Do not protect me, she whispered. Let me stand with you. The next morning, the board meeting resumed without him. News outlets confirmed an anonymous leak copies of the private contract, emails, and photos from the gala. Victor Hale called for Ryan's resignation, claiming moral irresponsibility. Oh, call. Anna watched the coverage in the penthouse, shaking as she realized the documents had come from her folder, the one she had kept hidden in her drawer. Someone had stolen it. She searched her memory, then froze. Claire, the assistant who had helped her prepare for the gala, had borrowed her keys 2 days ago. When Ryan returned that evening, Anna told him everything. For a moment he stood silent, then nodded grimly. I should have known. Victor and Claire worked together before she came here. Dum. He sank into the armchair, rubbing his temples. It is done. They will force me out by the end of the week. Anna knelt beside him. Then fight. Not for the company, for yourself. He looked at her, weary but alive. And what about us? She held his gaze. They can take your title, Ryan. They cannot take what is real. He reached for her hand and held it tightly. The city lights flickered beyond the glass, the same city that had watched him rise, now preparing to watch him fall. But for the first time, Ryan did not feel alone. Outside, thunder rumbled over the skyline. Inside, 2 people waited for the storm to break, ready to face whatever truth would come next. The storm outside lasted through the night, rain streaking down the glass walls like the world itself was trying to wash everything clean. By morning, Ryan was gone. His phone, his watch, his car keys all missing. On the kitchen counter lay a single note written in his sharp handwriting. Do not look for me. You deserve peace, even if I cannot find mine. Anna stood frozen, the note trembling in her hand. The penthouse felt hollow without him, like a stage after the curtain had fallen. She called his office, his lawyer, even the driver. No one knew where he was. The investigation had gone public, and Victor Hale had taken temporary control of Carter Group. Rumors claimed Ryan had fled the city. For 3 days, Anna barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face under the rooftop lights, the way he had said, "You deserve better than to drown with me." She had stayed silent long enough. Now she had something Victor Hale never expected a truth to fight with. Anna went to the Carter Group building early on the 4th morning. Reporters swarmed the front steps, flashes exploding like lightning. She clutched a small leather folder to her chest, the original contract Ryan had signed months ago. Inside, in his own handwriting, he had written an additional clause weeks after they started the arrangement. Clause 10. This agreement shall end if emotional involvement becomes real. At that point, both parties are free. Anna knew what that meant. Ryan had already dissolved the contract the moment he admitted his feelings. The so-called scandal was built on a lie. She walked through the main doors, past security, straight into the boardroom where the meeting was underway. Victor looked up, startled. You cannot be here. I can, she said, her voice steady. Because I am the person you built your lies around. Murmurs filled the room. Anna opened the folder, placing the signed papers on the polished table. These are the original documents. The leak you showed, the press was altered. Ryan never misused funds or coerced anyone. The contract ended months ago, and I can prove it. Victor's smugness faltered. You expect them to believe you? Anna met his eyes without fear. No, I expect them to read. She slid the evidence toward the nearest board member. Gasps rippled as they read the final clause. The legal advisor spoke first. This clears Mr. Carter. He did not violate any ethical boundary. The leak was falsified. Victor's face turned pale. That is impossible. But the truth was already spreading. Reporters outside received copies within minutes. By evening, every headline had changed. Ryan Carter framed by rival executive, truth revealed by his assistant. Anna returned to the penthouse that night, exhausted but relieved. When the elevator doors opened, she froze. Ryan stood inside, drenched from the rain, eyes weary but alive. I saw the news, he said softly. You did that? She nodded. I had to. He stepped closer, emotion catching in his voice. You saved me, Anna. She shook her head, tears welling. No, You saved yourself when you chose honesty. I only reminded them who you are. Ryan took her hand gently. Then, let me remind you of something, too. From his coat pocket, he pulled out a small black folder, the same one that once held their contract. But inside now lay a single note in his handwriting. Clause 11. Love is no longer forbidden. Anna laughed through her tears. For the first time in months, the air around them felt pure again. The storm had passed, and this time, it left behind something worth keeping: truth, redemption, and the beginning of something real. A week later, the city looked brighter, almost reborn after the storm. The headlines had turned from scandal to redemption, and Ryan Carter's name was finally cleared. Victor Hale resigned under pressure, and the Carter Group board voted unanimously to reinstate Ryan as CEO. But for Ryan, it was no longer about victory, it was about beginning again. The penthouse, once a fortress of silence, now carried the soft sound of life. The piano that had collected dust for years was open again, and on the table near the window sat 2 steaming cups of coffee, his and hers. Anna stood beside him, her hands wrapped around the cup, watching the skyline that had witnessed their entire story. You could walk away now, Ryan said quietly. You have your mother's care secured, your name cleared, your peace back. You do not owe me anything. Yokolu? Anna smiled faintly. Maybe I do not owe you, but I still choose you. He turned toward her, his voice softer than she had ever heard. Then, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that. The evening sun dipped low, flooding the room with gold. Ryan reached into his pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. Anna froze, her breath catching. I once made you sign a contract, he said. This time I am only asking for a promise. He opened the box. Inside was not a diamond ring, but a simple silver band engraved with a single word: quiet. It was never about silence, he continued. It was about finding peace. You gave that back to me. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, yes. Ryan slid the ring onto her finger, his touch gentle and sure. The city lights flickered to life behind them as if the world itself was bearing witness. That night, they hosted a small gathering in the same art gallery where her sketches had once hung. A new exhibit stood at the center, a framed copy of their old contract, the pages open to the final handwritten line. Clause 11. Love is no longer forbidden. Guests stopped to read, smiling as they moved past. At the back of the gallery, Ryan and Anna stood together, hands intertwined, watching quietly. Do you ever think about how strange it all began? Anna asked, her voice soft with wonder. Ryan smiled. Every night, and every night I thank fate for sending the wrong maid to the right door. She laughed, leaning against his shoulder as the lights dimmed and the soft hum of music filled the room. Outside, the rain began again, but this time it did not sound lonely. It sounded like a rhythm, the heartbeat of 2 people who had found each other through chaos, rules, and redemption. And as the screen faded to black, his voice lingered like a promise. Every night she gave me her quiet, and one day I gave her my heart.